Yes guys, welcome back to the FPL Fan Show. My name is FPL Nacho and this is my Game Week 10 team selection video. Cannot wait to bring this one to you guys. There's plenty to discuss ahead of an eventful weekend of football. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing my team ahead of the weekend. I'm going to be discussing the top 3 captains ahead of Game Week 10. No surprises who number 1 is going to be. And I'm also going to be answering your questions that you guys asked me over on Twitter. Big shout out to you guys who sent those in. And as always guys, if you want to support the channel, be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. So without further ado guys, let's get started. Okay guys, we've been kicking off this video with my current Game Week 10 team selection. Now, like many of you guys, I was coming into this game week with my hands over my face with so many injuries with the likes of Raphinha, Vardy and Mbeumo to name a few, and thankfully I've seen a few of those flags disappear over the last few days. Now, so at the time of recording right now, we understand that Jamie Vardy is available for selection, thank the Lord, ahead of their home fixture against Arsenal. Brendan Rodgers confirmed that he is fit and ready for selection. Whether that means he starts or not, I'm not too sure, but that is great news for managers who didn't want to sell him. Raphinha, we understand, is available for the weekend as well. Again, no 100% concrete evidence, but there is pictures of him training and we do believe that he is fit for the weekend, which is great news again, even though he is currently flagged in FPL. And the third one in my squad personally is Mbeumo, who, again, this one's probably the most unclear of the few. There's rumours that he is going to have a late fitness test ahead of the weekend. Whether that means he is going to be fit enough to start or not, I'm not too sure. But he is definitely the one of the 3 that definitely has the biggest question mark over his head. So, as you can see on screen, guys, this is my current team setup. So, let's go through this, let you guys know my decisions, my thought process, and what I'm going to be doing with my transfers. Now, it's worth mentioning, I have 1 free transfer and 2.3 million in the bank. Now, Foster is going to be the man who starts in between the sticks, and that is mainly because of Sanchez's tricky away fixture against Liverpool. After seeing them concede 4 against Man City, I don't fancy them keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool. And while Ben Foster isn't necessarily going to be keeping a clean sheet against Southampton, I think he's the better pick of the 2. So for those managers that currently have Ben Foster, I see no reason why you can't start him in Game Week 10. Now, I have gone for the Man City double up in defence in Diaz and Cancelo, the 2 who let me down so dearly in Game Week 9. Thank you so much, Edison. But I still back these 2 to pick up a clean sheet against Crystal Palace. Now, it's worth mentioning, Palace have been very good so far this season, and I would not be surprised if they do cause an upset and pick up a goal against Man City. But with Diaz and Cancelo, 2 premium options, these guys are going to be starting in any fixture any week, so that is why they're in my team. And to be honest, against a Crystal Palace team like this, Cancelo is top of the charts for so many different departments this season. I think it's only right that he sooner or later is going to be getting those attack and returns, and I still think that he could get him at any point. So Crystal Palace at home, who knows, this could be the time where he picks up that monster haul that we've all been wishing for. Trent at home to Brighton, that's a no-brainer right now, still being a brilliant asset in the team. And I think managers that don't own him right now, still a great time to go into him with the fixtures coming up. He's still an amazing asset. And although no player is essential, apart from Salah, of course, I still think he's one of the best defenders to own. And now the 4th defensive spot is definitely the one for up debate in my team right now. Reece James has currently got the shirt and he's got the nod against Newcastle away. Now, I share the problems that managers have right now. Reece James playing in the Carabao Cup, Azpilicueta currently injured, but we do believe that he is going to be available for the weekend alongside Christensen. It does smell like it could be a potential Reece James off the bench for 20 minutes sort of feeling, but right now, I think this away fixture as Newcastle is brilliant, and my current thought process is I am happy to take that risk with Reece James and start him against Newcastle with the chance that he might start and continue his impressive form since his injury. So he has currently got the 4th spot in my defence. That is subject to change unless I hear more information about the Chelsea defence, but I'm currently favouring him in against that Newcastle, which I think could be a brilliant game for him, both defensively and offensively. So in the midfield, as I mentioned, guys, Raphinha, we believe, is past fit for the weekend, so he is definitely going to be starting in my team. Saka is going to be the one with a bit of a question mark right now. So Saka is currently fighting for a spot alongside Mbeumo in my team. Now, Saka currently has a shirt mainly because I don't know the injury status on Mbeumo. If we get confirmation that Mbeumo is fit for the weekend, this will make it a much closer decision. However, it's worth noting, I do think that Burnley away is going to be a tricky game for Brentford. Burnley do match them up well in terms of the aerial threats that they do pose teams, usually Brentford. And I think this could be a very bogey team for them. So I'm a little bit cautious about doubling up with Brentford, even though on paper the fixture looks very good. And seeing the underlying stats of Saka, I think Saka owners shouldn't be wary about starting him. I've seen enough from him in the eye test and the underlying stats to suggest if he does start this fixture against Leicester, there is definitely a potential for attack and returns. So he's currently got a spot on my team. And of course, Mo Salah is the third midfielder. No questions asked about the captaincy. He is going to be getting that one. And a bit of a preview, guys, ahead for this captaincy section coming up after this. You know, there's no spoilers that this guy is the #1 pick for game week 10. But that is why he is starting. Of course, got the armband. Now, moving into the forward line. This week's been made a little bit easier because of the Vardy confirmation. We know that he is fit for selection, and unless Brendan Rodgers comes out or news comes out that he is going to be benched for game week 10, he is going to be starting in my team, and I'm not going to be looking to sell him at all because of the home fixture against Arsenal. I think defensively, Arsenal are still a little bit suspect, so I think Vardy could definitely capitalise against this team. Now, Tony is going to be the second attacker. I think this is just one of those things where he has to be starting. The value that he has, the talisman, and as a penalty taker. I mentioned I think Burnley is going to be a tricky fixture, but I think this is a good fixture for Tony nonetheless at his price point in the game, and I think he's a solid pick either way. So Tony is definitely a starter on my side. And third up, Antonio, no-brainer again. Brilliant FPL value. He's going to be holding me for a long time. And looking at Aston Villa defensively, they're in the top 3 for expected goals against over the last 5 league matches. And that is why I definitely favour Antonio. He gets so many big chances. West Ham look brilliant right now, and having been able to rest some of their players in the Carabao Cup means they're coming in fresh into this game with some of their key players. And that is why I think Antonio is a great vice captaincy option this game week. I think he's going to fly completely under the radar because of Salah. But I think as a vice captain, he's a brilliant pick in those sides. Now, on the bench, guys, I have missed Livramento's points week in, week out, and it's looking like I'm going to be taking that risk again, having him as my first sub. Now, Watford away, of course, 5-2 against Everton. We're not going to be expecting that every game week, but this could be a Watford side that are feeling a little bit rejuvenated under Claudio Ranieri. And it's worth noting as well, Southampton defensively still leave a lot to desire. I'm not completely sold on them as a defensive unit. So essentially, you're kind of banking on Livramento to get another set of attack and returns, which I do not put it against him because of his recent form in the team. But right now, he's going to be my first sub, mainly due to Watford's performances in game week 9 and my suspect about them defensively as a team. So right now, guys, I usually skip on to my transfer section. However, right now at the time of recording, I am tempted to roll my free transfer to provide my team with a bit more flexibility going into game week 11. Now, what I am going to do, guys, in the next section is just talk about some potential players on my watch list that I am considering and players that I might consider bringing into my team ahead of game week 10. But right now, as we record, this will be my starting lineup for game week 10. But as always, I will be updating you guys over on Twitter and hopefully a live stream dropping later on today where we can have official lineup of my team. So, guys, let's have a quick look at transfers and potential watch lists ahead of game week. Before we get stuck in, a big shout out to Fantasy Football Fix for letting me use their website and graphics. If you haven't checked them out, guys, link in the bio. Brilliant website and some great tools on there to help you improve your ranks. So, first debate transfer for me is with the 2.3 million in the bank, I have the potential to do Bukayo Saka up into Phil Foden as an option for game week 10. Now, the reason being why I'm considering selling Bukayo Saka is mainly because of the form of Phil Foden. Now, recently coming back from injury, he's only played 376 minutes so far this season, but that performance against Brighton has definitely made a lot of managers excited about his prospects as an FPL asset. And I think a lot of managers have come to the conclusion that it is really his time to be featuring in this Man City team. I really do think that rotation is a big worry with Man City assets, but in the likes of Phil Foden, I don't believe that he's currently on the same position as Mahrez, where his game time is going to be far and few between. I I really do think personally that Phil Foden is going to get a long stint of game time in this team. And of course, there is going to be a hint of benching, but I think you take that high FPL ceiling with the potential rotation that Phil Foden offers. So looking at the two compared against one another, we just want to come down as first of all, you can see 3.4 points per game for Saka in comparison to Phil Foden's 7, but again, a smaller sample size for Phil Foden. And when we come down into the touch maps for both players, again, as I mentioned, guys, the sample size is a lot smaller for Phil Foden, so less information to judge off really, but both operate in similar-ish positions. You can see on the left-hand side there, really dominating in that left-hand side of the final third, but both getting significant touches in and around the box. And one thing I have noticed with Phil Foden and the way that Man City play in general is that the way they create chances really puts them in the best goal-scoring opportunities. Those traditional classic balls you see KDB put in across the 6-yard box with the left-handed sided forward tapping them in is something that we see season on season in the way that Pep Guardiola operates his teams. And again, when Phil Foden picks up these positions in the side, that is why his underlying stats are so great in comparison to other assets from other teams. And again, when we look at the underlying stats, we see 16 shots in comparison to Phil Foden's 13. But it's worth mentioning that Phil Foden's played so many less minutes that his stats are looking really solid here. But what I want to come to right now, guys, for the last bit is the average statistics per 90. This is where we get a real idea of how they're operating against one another when one player is playing significantly more minutes than the other. And we can see here that Phil Foden is dominating Bukayo Saka in pretty much every department. Now, again, guys, 0.72 per 90 for goals for Phil Foden. I am not expecting those kind of underlying stats for him. So that's why it's slightly skewed because of the small sample size. Clearly, Phil Foden's on a bit of a purple patch, on a good streak. I'm not expecting these underlying stats to be sustainable in the long term. So it's worth noting that. Whereas Bukayo Saka, we've got a bit more of a longer term data range. These stats are a bit more of his average and a bit more predictable of what's going to come in the future. And as we can see there, his stats are still very good. 2.29 shots per 90, 1.86 in the box. But it really is those Phil Foden stats that are making it very interesting ahead of game week 10. Now, as I mentioned, I personally want to roll my free transfer because the flexibility is going to give me in game week 11 where I could potentially target Spurs assets. But if I am going to be tempted by a transfer, I do think that Bukayo Saka to Phil Foden will be the one that sways me. I want to hold on to Raphinha and Salah, and the reason why I hold on to Mbeumo, even though he is flagged, is because of the value at 5.5 million and Brentford's next 4 fixtures being so brilliant. So that's why Saka becomes a bit of the easy sale for me in the midfield. So Saka to Phil Foden is not a transfer that I'm considering right now, but if I am to pull the trigger on one transfer, I think Phil Foden is going to be the man.
Correct, Captain.
Okay, guys, it's time for correct captain, and of course, this is where I go into the players that I would be considering ahead of game week 10 as a captaincy option. But guys, this is going to be short and sweet. Mo Salah. Guys, it has to be Mo Salah at home to Brighton. Now, of course, guys are watching right now being, guys, Callum, stop being so boring. Think about other options. Guys, when a player is in this such form like him, with the way that Liverpool are playing and a home fixture, I really don't think there is any other option available in the game. You cannot be too smart sometimes in the game. And the big problem with captaining against Mo Salah is the effective ownership. So those who don't know, effective ownership essentially means that Mo Salah could be owned by 60% of the players in the game, but if all these players captain him, then that means that his effective ownership will exceed 100%. So what does that mean? If you were to own Salah, but not captain him, and then you Salah hauled, that means that you would get a red arrow, because even though you own him, that will not be enough because effective ownership is over 100%, which means that that is going to damage your rank, even though you own him. And I think this is going to be the case for the coming game weeks. I think majority of players are going to be captaining Mo Salah, and that means if you go against the grain and he does well, it is going to seriously hinder your rank. So while you can be smart sometimes, while you could do Raphinha against Norwich and hope for a big score, remember Kai Havertz owners, what happened last time, I really do think that just going smart for the next few game weeks is the safest move, and let your differentials in your team outside of Mo Salah be the ones that get you that small incremental rank climb week in, week out. I just think the risk is too big right now in a player that is playing phenomenal, one of the best players in the world. I don't think you need to be too smart, guys. So Mo Salah is going to end the debate here and going to be the correct captain for game week 10. Okay, so I have a great question here from Alex that's said about transferring in Foden or Chilwell and selling either Azpilicueta or Raphinha. Now, I know we talked about Foden and Chilwell in previous videos and a little bit today about the value that they're offering in FPL, but I really do think this question is a great one because we're looking at two players who are still great FPL options, and this all comes down to FPL decision making. Now, first and foremost, it sounds like Azpilicueta has been training with the squad and has been pictured and could be available for the weekend. And the same goes for Raphinha ahead of a brilliant fixture away to Norwich. Now, of course, Foden and Chilwell, both great options available in FPL right now. And it's very difficult to ignore either of those assets. However, I really do think that this is a perfect example of when an asset becomes almost too irresistible to go towards. And I think we need to definitely bring ourselves down to the right level to consider the players that we might be selling instead to get these new players in. Now, for this one in instance, we could be potentially selling Raphinha, who is a guaranteed 90 minutes in, yes, an underperforming Leeds side right now, but the talisman in this Leeds side against one of the worst teams in the league. Now, I know that his injury status is a little bit dubious right now, whether he is going to be available or not, and the reoccurring injuries that he has had is making him a frustrating player to own. But I do think that Raphinha is a perfect example of selling somebody who in the longer term you're definitely going to want, and you're bringing in somebody like Phil Foden, who's a brilliant option, no doubts about it, but offers a bit more of a rotation risk in a Man City side. So I think Raphinha to Foden, while I think is a great move in the long term, I do think that Raphinha is still a brilliant hold. Even if he is carrying a knock here and there, I think he is still one of the best values midfielders in the game. And Azpilicueta to Chilwell, this is definitely one of those sideways moves. However, with the Azpilicueta current injury, we still don't know about the status of it right now. Moving over to Chilwell would give you a bit more clarity that he is going to be starting this game week, which we assume that Tuchel has now got Chilwell as his number one left wing back. But again, Azpilicueta, usually 9 times out of 10, a guaranteed starter in this Chelsea team and somebody who still can get attacking returns. So I do think that it's just one of these moves right now this week where, yes, I think like Phil Foden, I like Ben Chilwell, but just be cautious that you are selling two players that prior to game week 9 were some of the must-have players in the game, and it is very much a carousel of players in FPL where one moment it will be a group of players and the next will be another group. So if I had to pick one and you had to make a transfer, I would probably make the Azpilicueta to Chilwell move. It saves yourself a bit of cash and it gives you a bit more potential of attacking returns. I just feel like Raphinha in the longer term is still a brilliant midfielder value pick. Okay guys, and the second and final hot topic is coming in from James Robertson, who said KDB is a problem, keep him for third week or risk rotation again. Now, of course guys, KDB, I am the biggest fan of KDB, and I think when he is fully fit is a brilliant FPL option. Usually, although Salah is making him look a bit rubbish right now, but it's worth noting that KDB has obviously been injury ridden over the last few months, really hasn't gotten up to full fitness in this Man City team. Now, I do think that he is a bit of a frustrating player to own, as of course with the injury risk and the price tag that he has, you cannot have a player that might be sitting on the bench each game week. This is only highlighted by the form and the consistency that Salah is showing, who's only slightly more expensive than Kevin De Bruyne. So first and foremost, I think Kevin De Bruyne is in a situation right now, while he's an amazing differential, probably isn't a buy right now. I think we need to actually see returns and consistency from him until we can actually call him a viable midfield option in FPL. Because of that price point, we need to have assurances, and for slightly more, you could get someone like Mane at Liverpool, who's going to get guaranteed game time. I say that after getting benched against Man United, but usually guaranteed game time and equally decent attacking returns. So if I owned KDB right now, I feel like the temptation of the differential option and him being rested in times over the last few game weeks hints to me that he will start in this game week 10. And I think it's a great fixture for him to get some returns at home to Crystal Palace. So I think if you are a KDB owner right now, I think that you've gone through the sticky patch. And I do think that he might get a run of games. And that is why I would definitely hold KDB as an option. But for those managers that look for a differential pick, I still don't think KDB sits under that umbrella right now. I think we need a few more game weeks of consistency and returns. Then he can fall into that asset as a brilliant outside pick to match maybe the likes of Salah, the Manes of the world. So right now, it is going to be a no-buy zone for KDB and a hold if you currently own him. Right guys, that is going to wrap up my Game Week 10 team selection video. As I mentioned, my current thought process right now is to roll that free transfer and give me some flexibility going into the current game weeks. However, if I am to make a transfer, I do think that Bukayo Saka to Phil Foden is my most likely move. But as I said guys, hopefully a live stream later on today, and I will obviously keep you guys updated on social media. So be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at FPL Fan Show or FPL Nacho. And if you did enjoy the video guys, be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and with more videos coming out, you don't want to be missing a thing, so hit that notification bell. And again, a big shout out to Fantasy Football Fix for allowing me to use their website and graphics. Link in the bio for those guys. Be sure to check them out. So guys, I will hopefully see you in a live stream later, and I hope you guys have an amazing game week, and we will talk soon. Cheers.